Hey there.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I am stoked. This is very cool. Some of my volleyball friends are geeking out that I'm interviewing
Mm.
you, so that's really cool. So, Holly is a an amazing beach volleyball player, amazing volleyball player, amazing athlete, and gotten to know her just a little bit in the last few months, and have watched you play. I'm such a fan of what you bring to the game, your commitment. I'm imagining that's what you bring to life, a commitment to just excellence and just being awesome and being supportive of people. I've watched the people you've played with. So yeah. So first of all, so thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. And for those who don't know, you're about to get a really, really, really awesome treat. Just want to make that for those who aren't aware of that. Just letting you know.
Thank you.
So what I want to do, and I asked you to share something, and from what I can tell, looking at what you've done, not only have you been successful as an athlete, and I'm going to do the short version. I'll let you talk about it more, but I know you've um, earned an Olympic medal. I know you've been earned so many honors as one of the top beach volleyball players in the world. You've earned collegiate honors. Um, what was it? And at any point, feel free to just weave in which parts you've done. But this is a bad woman here, right? Just so y'all know, this is um, just wanted to have this conversation about you having this life that is not perfect, but seems to be. When I asked you, would you speak on this topic of creating an amazing life with no regrets by persistently pursuing your dreams? And it's a bit of a mouthful, but it was the quickest way I could define what I think it is that you do. Um, what did it feel like when you first started playing volleyball? And when did you realize you were passionate about that? Because I think that seems to be something that's really instrumental in what you do. You don't seem to do things halfway, from what I can tell, and even from interacting with you, even preparing for this. So yeah. So again, what was it like when you started, and how did you know you were passionate about that?
Well, good morning. I grew up in a very competitive family, and I was fortunate enough to have a twin brother and a younger sister and a competitive mom and dad. We competed at whatever we did. So it was just natural that, on the weekends when we went down to play volleyball, that it was game on. That's just how I was from an early age, no matter what sport, pee wee soccer, I love to compete. So I knew that sports were for me because I was a super shy kid, but as soon as I played sports, boom, I was confident. I could dominate, and it was just something that gave me a lot of pleasure. I liked watching sports. I liked playing all types of sports. So from an early age, it was something that I knew made me happy. Seventh grade is when I decided to play indoor volleyball. I was playing club soccer, indoor volleyball, kind of did that for a while, and then chose indoor volleyball as a vehicle to earn a scholarship to college. And that was really important for me. So it kind of all started there and just snowballed and grew, and I put a lot of work into it.
What was it that led you to decide you wanted to be great? Was it just, well, this is just default. This is what we do. You mentioned use the word dominate. Is that just like I'm only doing it this way, or no other way at all?
Um, you know, I don't know. I just kind of I'm wired that way. If I have an opportunity, I want to make the best of it. And I saw opportunities through sports, and I had great coaches along the way who kind of mentored, taught me about the discipline and the determination that it took to really maximize what you had. I'm not the biggest athlete, I'm undersized, but I could outwork anybody. And I had athletic talent. So like I wasn't athletic, I had athletic talent, but at 5, 6 and 3/4, I'm competing against girls that are 6 feet and some bigger. So I had to outwork them, outsmart them, and figure out ways to maximize the abilities that I had.
Awesome. One of the things that I've gotten from a sense of from talking with you is that you seem to enjoy the work. A lot of people talk these days about, well, I'm hustling, I'm grinding, but they say it like, okay, I want my badge now. Like, do I get my hustling buying like Girl Scouts or something? Like you should be so grateful that I worked hard. And some people call that entitlement. There's a lot of different words for it, but it doesn't seem like you have that. It seems you seem to enjoy that.
Yeah. Oh, I love the hard work that goes into it. I mean, you get out of something what you put into it. I did bike boot camp this morning and my instructor was yelling that at me all morning, but I agree with it. You know, as a professional athlete, I didn't have somebody driving my career. Nobody even thought I could win a tournament, let alone I had no money. I had nothing to fund my career. So I had to work at a restaurant, earn money so I could buy a ticket to go compete. So I had to put energy into making the most of what I had. And I love the grind. And a lot of pro athletes don't like the gym. I love the gym. I loved going to practice. Now I'm retired, I miss practice. I miss the hard work, just leaving the beach exhausted, covered in sand, knowing that I put all that effort into being the best that I could be. I love that. So maybe I'm weird, but that's how I am. And I think when you love what you do, it makes that a lot easier to put that work in.
Yeah, I mean, well, and two things there for those who don't know the world. I've I dabbled in beach volleyball, but for those who don't know, I mean, this is a world. It's kind of the closest analogy might be tennis or golf. You're your own person. You've got to get your butt there. You've got to. You're nobody's like paying your way. And in beach volleyball, um, gosh, even when you were at the top of it and you were the first woman to win or over $1 million in prizes, that still was like very rare, like a very small percentage of people, and that wasn't in a year, that wasn't in one tournament like golf. It was a longer thing. One of the things I think I'm catching here, though, is you seem to get that connection. There's a book by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art. I love it. And he talks about this thing called territory, that when you put in your time, that territory, I love you writing that down. That's great. I'll get you
I
the
like
notes for it.
reading.
Yeah. But he just talks about like, there's no luck. Like you put in the time and territory pays you back. Like, and he uses it in a different word of the meaning. So like when I watch, for example, I love playing the drums with headphones on really loudly and pretending that I sound like the other drummer. For whatever reason, I don't want to put in the work there. I do love putting it with volleyball. Um, but the people that are the best in the world, they do, it's not a mistake. Even if they're tall, even if they're Shaquille O'Neal and they're taller, you and I both know in volleyball, you can be tall and be goofy as heck and be totally taken off the court very shortly. But you seem to understand that connection. And so it's almost like somebody that says, well, I'm putting money in my mutual fund because I know it's going to grow. And so I'm not excited about the fact that I don't get to go, use the money to go buy myself a toy. I mean, that'd be great if I could do both, but I so want that money to grow, or I so want that payoff. Um, where did you get that? Was it from your mentors, and am I even right in what I'm saying that? I mean, is it you, because you seem to understand there's causation there, which a lot of people don't feel the causation. So if you look at, people that don't work out, they're like, well, it's not going to make a difference. You seem to be very clear on that. I'm curious, how did you get that?
I think I put in hard work and I saw results. So I just trial and error. I had to. If I didn't, there were going to be no results. And there's a lot of people who try and don't succeed. I also studied the successful people. I'm like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And what can I do better? It's funny because after I started winning, I would see the young players and they'd be going out to the bars and doing stuff instead of staying at the tournament watching to see what the top players are doing. What are they doing that I'm not doing? They're like, hey, this is a great time. We're on the beach. We're in Chicago. We're in Florida. We're in Texas. And they didn't understand that they weren't doing all they could do to be great. And, I for some reason figured that out. I don't know. I was smart. I was observant. And so I figured that out early, which I'm grateful for, because I think it affects your whole life. And, you know, as in anything you do, you want to always keep learning. I never act like I know it all. I coach all the time, but I can still be a better coach, and I can still study and improve all my skills. So you never can settle and stop learning.
That's awesome. And because I think one of my questions was going to be, which you seem to have pretty much kind of already answered, is where did you and how did you find the confidence to believe you could be world class? Because I think that's something people seem to need. Some people seem to need permission for somebody to tell them, hey, you can be world class. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. As if, again, it's something, and you seem to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do this because I can, or because, not so much I'm gonna die trying, and that might have been for you. I mean, was it that desperation? Was just, I mean, it sounds like it was fun for you, or it is fun for you.
Oh, nobody said I could be world class. Nobody said I could win anything. So I had a chip on my shoulder. I had a lot to prove, and it was fun proving people wrong. I did it for myself, but it was, that was the side effect, and it was fun. But yeah, I mean, see these athletes come out, oh, they can be amazing. I'm like, okay, whatever, it's potential.
Yeah.
There, a lot of people don't do anything with potential, and people tell them that their whole lives, and that maybe that's a lot of pressure on them. Nobody told me that. I just was like, okay, I'm grinding, and I'm going to be the best I could be. Did I ever think I could be the best in the world? Probably not when I first started, but as I gained confidence and started winning, and then I was like, wow, I can really take this to the next level. And it was a super fun process. It was a lot of hard work, but I loved every second of it.
That is so awesome. What are some of the lessons that if someone asked you, I know you've had a lot of mentors that really inspired you in different ways. What were some of the things that you didn't bring to the table that you said, no, this person taught me this, and that was something that made a huge shift for me?
Um, I'm not really sure what it was, because I was kind of shaped by all sorts of different situations. Through sports. I think my high school volleyball coach was the first like super structured environment. You couldn't be a 1 minute late. You could never miss a practice. You had to be all in. There was no excuses. Everybody treated equally. And I like that. I learned that I really thrive in a disciplined environment where the expectations are the same for everybody. Um, and not, oh, somebody gets special treatment here or special treatment there. And the same thing actually happened at UCLA too, or when I played. But in between there, I went to Cal Berkeley for a few years, and it was not like that at all. And it was not a fun environment for me on the volleyball team. I loved the school, but it was not the right fit for me, sports wise, because it was like, oh, optional practice. Oh, it's okay if you're a little late. Oh, you have a stomach ache, you can sit out. I mean, UCLA and Maricosta, my high school, that wasn't allowed. So there were no excuses. And when there are no excuses, I think things get real. And I like that. I like the no excuses. I don't want to make excuses for anything.
Very cool. A lot of people, when they talk about kids being athletes, there's the side, you and I had talked a little about this too, of, the pressure from the parents, or so there can be a lot of things that aren't so good. And a lot of people get really focused sometimes on, well, the kid missed out on this or missed out on that. But I'm imagining there's things that you got instead. What would you say, for that person that's saying, you know what, I want to do this, but now the world's telling me I'm going to miss out on my childhood or something? What would you say to somebody who's saying, you know what, I'm thinking of going for it? What did you get? And what did you have to give up? Because you might say, yeah, wait, I gave up certain things. I gave up, like you mentioned, some, I gave up going to bars, to parties because I was on the court watching. What were the trade-offs for you, and how did that play out?
Gosh, because it was something I wanted, I didn't feel like I was sacrificing anything. I mean, this is what I wanted. Did I miss a couple parties? Yeah, but who cares? I was achieving and going for my dreams. So I really don't feel like I had to sacrifice much. I missed a couple family activities and whatever because I was traveling around the world. But it was what I wanted to do. And so I really don't feel like I sacrificed much.
It's interesting you say that, because I know in this whole 3-day weekend thing I've been doing, when I first started, it was to get away from some of the work, which was a very different motivation than moving towards something. And I felt like, well, I'm giving up this, I'm giving up that. And as I've gotten more into doing work that I enjoy doing, I might miss something, but to your point, yeah, I don't feel like I'm missing it, because I feel like, well, I'm where I'm supposed to be. And again, it might not be at 3 days. Everybody's might be their own different thing. You mentioned you started seeing results, and that was, sort of feeding the feedback loop. How did that affect your personal life and your attitude and your commitment to be even better when you started seeing the success?
Oh, I think I was more confident. I think, first of all, improving is addicting. I mean, seeing improvement, seeing results, it's like, wow, I'm hooked. It makes sense. And I think it gave me confidence off the court too. I was so shy as a kid. Oh my gosh. Even in high school, maybe even in college, if I had to do an interview, I was terrified. Um, because I was very comfortable on the court, but off the court, I would just like, oh gosh, I have to give an interview. It was not good. And now, I work on TV in front of a camera. I'm okay with it. It's not a problem. But it's also getting outside your comfort zone. And that's important too. You know, getting outside your comfort zone and pushing the limits, because at one point I was #1 in the world, and this man, who was a legend in the sport, came up, and I didn't really know him, and he didn't have great people skills. And he told me that, oh, that's how you play? You don't move your feet, you don't do this. And he was very critical. And I was like, I don't like that, man. And my husband was like, just give him a chance. Maybe he has a point. Maybe there's somewhere he can help you in your game. And I was like, I don't think so. But couple times later, I met with him, and we actually grew to love one another and respect one another. I used him as a coach later on in life. But he really rubbed me the wrong way at the beginning, and I was like, I'm the best in the world. Why are you telling me that? And, my husband actually made me realize that, hey, maybe he does have something to offer. And I like that. My husband likes to push me. He's very good at doing that, kind of making me uncomfortable. My entire athletic career, he's like, what are you going to do after sports? I'm like, I'm all in right now. I can't think about that. And it's true. I was like all in. I didn't even want to think about what I was going to do after. So I have to give my husband a lot of credit.
Well, I think that's awesome. I notice a lot of successful people I work with, they have somebody that allows them to be all in and looks at the big picture, because they'll say, I can't do both. And I think see some people that don't have that person, so they constantly, I'm in, but wait, small picture, big picture, as opposed to being able to have that. Um, what have you learned about, well, for those listening who don't know, beach volleyball, you choose your partner. So unlike other sports where, you're on a team and you get traded or this or that, beach volleyball is not like that. It's very, as you know, it's hierarchical in the sense of, or natural selection. If you're great, better people can ask you to play, that sort of stuff. Once you reach the top, though, you and I have both seen this. Some people, there's the types that just yell at their partner, they're on their partner. And there's those that figure out how to motivate their partner. And then, of course, it depends on the partner. Some people do respond well to being, yelled at or pushed. Some don't. What have you learned about working with people and the partners, that you'd say serves you today, as far as being able to understand not necessarily how to coddle somebody or just compliment them, or not how to just berate them, but the subtle skills, of being able to get the most from people?
I learned a lot. So it's interesting because I coach young athletes. I own a beach volleyball club, elite beach volleyball in Manhattan Beach. And a lot of the girls are like, oh, I can't get a partner. Oh, I'm like, here's what you do. You get somebody who you think is decent, and you go out and you beat everybody else. And I guarantee you they'll want to play with you, because nobody would play with me. Nobody. And I mean, I remember all these women like turning me down, and I was like, I'm going to whoop you. I mean, I was like on a mission. And once I did, partners just fell into line, and I would win with whoever I played with. Did not matter. And so I got very good at playing with different kinds of players, figuring out what motivated them, what I had to do with my game to make them better. It wasn't always the same thing. My one demand or I guess request of a partner was that they gave 100%. I was a demanding partner because I wanted to be the best. And if you're not going to put in the work then and don't want to win like I do, then you're not the partner for me. But there were plenty of people who did want to learn and compete and be at the highest level. But that, I think, playing with a partner and learning to make them better was probably one of the best skills that I learned in that situation. And I think that can, apply to anything you do. I see a lot of head coaches of school programs. They hire an assistant coach that is the same as them. No, you need somebody who complements you, who brings what you don't have. And I see it all the time, and it drives me crazy. I'm like, don't you realize what you need to make you a better coach, and people don't see that.
Well, I think it goes back to that thing, indoors, as you know so well, the setter position. I remember I asked somebody, when I was starting to learn indoor, because I grew up playing on the beach, and you know, one of the first things asked, well, what's the setter position? Like, your job is to make the hitter successful. That's it. That's the definition of your job. That's whatever it takes to look like that. That's your job. And in beach, it's like it's you and another person, especially like, as you know, the King of the Beach format tournament where you switch partners, and the nature of it is, people say, well, this person didn't play well with me. It's like, but see, that's the whole part of the challenge. And that's
Yeah.
what business is like. That's what so much of life is like. And yeah, I totally love that dynamic. I think in so much of things, once you start doing stuff, well, all of a sudden, it's the whole thing of making yourself the person that people want to be around rather than looking for somebody who's going to entertain you or want to be around.
Well, and I was a setter indoors. So
Yeah.
I learned that indoors. I'm like, not only was trying to make my hitters better, you're kind of a little bit of a counselor, psychologist, trying to figure out, hey, what do they need to hear to make them play at their best level? So, I've learned that, as a setter all the way through indoors. And I think I got good at figuring out each hitter needs something different. Some hitters don't want positive feedback. They just like set me the ball. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And some needed, hey, we're going to run this. I'm going to set you the ball. Be ready. They needed a pep talk. So you just kind of figure that out. And again, I see that in my job all the time and whatever I do.
I think that's so where I remember a friend of mine who's a setter used to get mad. There was a guy we'd played once in a while, big, huge guy, and he beat the heck out of the ball, but he needed validation is the simplest way I'd put it. And so, my friends and setters complain. I'm like, it's your job, don't you? And I just loved it because he liked the guy that was just like, I hit the job, I turn around like, of course, that's expected. That's what's supposed to happen. But I think, yeah, again, like in anything else, that's something, we've learned, gosh, from having two children. Um, Anybody I know that's had two children says, okay, there's at least some biology going on here. It's not all environment because one comes out ready to do A, one comes out ready to do B. You probably saw that in your family with your brother and that sort of stuff of just realizing, yeah, people are different. And I think it's so awesome that your husband pointed out to you, when you got that feedback and just say, look, what can I take from that and do with that? What are you most proud of as an athlete?
Well, I think I'm proud of the fact that I worked my tail off and maximized what I was given. I worked so hard. I took advantage of a lot of my opportunities. I mean, when you have opportunities and to like meet with sponsors and help give back to the sport and help grow the sport, it's important to do so. I had to get involved with some of the politics of the sport, which I didn't want to, but as a leader, you have to stand up and say, look, this is what's right. But I think, the work, the approach, and the opportunities that I got to experience because of my sport, I'm really grateful. And I feel like I took advantage of them. I didn't ignore them. I got to travel all over the world. And actually, the first part of my professional career, I was like, boom, blinders on. I'm only here to play. Second part, I'm like, you know what? I'm in Switzerland. I'm going to go ride a bike through the Alps, go do an alpine coaster, do some cool stuff and really enjoy it. And later in life, I felt like it was more holistic. It was a healthier thing because when it was just blinders on just, okay, how I did in the tournament, if volleyball didn't go well, I was miserable, and sometimes you have an off tournament. But when I kind of opened up my mind to enjoying where I was and enjoying, the people around me, I think I was a little bit more balanced and healthier.
That's awesome. It's funny. It really addresses to the question I was going to have is so either what would you have done differently or how did it evolve? But it sounds like you got to enjoy a few different phases, like a few different hollies, if you will, or of your approach, being a different person in relationship to the experience of it, especially I guess with your husband in your ear telling you about what's coming next or what you'd have to think about. How would you say that you've taken all of that success? And by the way, for those listening, again, to be really clear, um, resume sheet, very long, lots of accomplishments. And I just love your answer that you did the most with what you had. And like that sense of like, I did my job. I did what I could do. I could look at anybody in the eye and say, yeah, I did what I was capable of, which I think so many athletes today, I see that in the kids I coach. I'm confident you see it as well, as that sense of I did my best. And I think that's like, that's all I ask for my kids. I'm like, that's all I want you. I want you to have, not for me. I want you to have that experience for you where you're like, yes. And I might have won or I might have lost, but I did what I could. I maximized myself. Last week, one of the girls we're coaching, she came, she's like, my coach wants me to hit a jump serve. I said, okay, so with a jump floater, this, that. She's like, I'm like, okay, so we had within a week at another practice, I'm like, okay, I want you to hit basically a top spin serve to the left side. And I didn't explain the mechanics. I said, I just want you to hit it there and I want you to, and she did it. And the light, the look in her eyes, I know you've seen this, like, wow, like the coolest thing. And I'm like, that is so priceless. That's like, to me, that's otherworldly. That's something that is so huge. How have you taken what you've done as a pro, what you've learned, and how do you then now, as you coach young athletes and young professionals in that, how have you been able to bring that in, and what do you enjoy most about that?
Well, a quick aside, because I think being a young woman, especially growing up in these times, there's so much pressure on you. But having sports, the relationships, the time demands, obviously the physical demands, and everything that comes with it, can give somebody purpose, can give somebody confidence. I know that for me, I was not going to be deterred because I was focused on what I wanted to achieve. I was not going to let people treat me poorly because I was confident in myself and I know I deserve better. So I think these are some things that through sports, young people can learn. And I want our young athletes that I coach and mentor, I want them to feel good about themselves. And not all of them are going to get college scholarships. I wish they all could, but they can't. But I want them to know that they did everything they could to try and achieve that dream. And yes, some will come true, some won't, but knowing that you gave your best and tried to make it happen, I think a lot of confidence and good feelings, good vibes come from that. And in anything you do. I remember I was a hostess at a restaurant in high school. I mean, I wanted to do the best I could and learn. And my boss, and he would ask me to do things that I didn't want to do, clean up this, clean up that. And I was like, okay, well, this, I want to get paid, I want to make money, and I want to do a good job. So I think, through sports, you can learn a lot. And I think self-confidence is so important. And, I think there's some crazy statistic, like 80% of top female executives in Fortune 500 are all former athletes at some point. And I think we're unafraid to compete. We're unafraid to put it on the line. We're unafraid to do the hard work. We have to work with all sorts of different types of partners and teammates. How can we make everybody better? And I think working with other people is an important skill. So I think that's really served me well. And I think it can serve the young athletes that I coach and mentor well. So it's just kind of something that I'm trying to pay forward and explain to them.
I think that's so awesome that you're bringing that. And it's funny, you know, the oh yeah, Danny just put in the chat here. Fortune estimates that 95% of its Fortune 500 CEOs played sports. Yeah,
Well, so that's interesting. Okay, so that's just men.
okay.
But women, if you look at all the women in that, I think it's 80%, which is awesome. But sports,
Oh yeah.
right? It's
Well,
awesome.
and one of the things I love, and one of my favorite things is when you play, if you ever play co-ed volleyball, there's this can be this awkward moment if you're the guy, like, okay, should I hit the ball hard or not? And there's a certain type of female athlete that's like, if you don't hit it hard at me, like we're gonna have words. You're not here to patronize me. And that's something I think that's so awesome about specifically the sport of even volleyball. I'm sure, I guess probably in soccer and basketball, you have a little bit of that too, of that stuff of being able to um, really work together, partner together, but also the person says, yes, I'm up for the challenge. I think that's awesome. What do you love most about your life right now?
I love a lot of things about my life. I am a mother of a 10-year-old. I had two stepsons who are now grown up and adults. I love taking him to school every day. I love picking him up. I mean, simple things. I love giving back to my sport and teaching young athletes how to play a sport that I love. I also feel like I mentor and counsel lots of parents because they don't want to be left out and their drama in terms of, oh, can we miss this tournament? Can we do this? So I feel like half my job is consulting parents. But the fun part is on the court, helping these kids do great things and gain confidence in what they're doing. I really enjoy that.
Awesome. Got a question from Debbie. Curious, if you had chose another sport other than volleyball, what would it have been?
Soccer. I loved soccer. And I was actually a better soccer player than I was a volleyball player. But at that time, there were not scholarships like there were in volleyball. I mean, 12 full ride scholarships per Division I school. And soccer was like a partial here, partial there. So I had to make that decision because I needed a scholarship to go to college.
Gotcha. What do you most hope to achieve with your work?
I want to do something that I love and I want to help people. It's funny because you and I have talked about this Mighty Networks thing, and I'm on the fence about two different communities or two different things that I want to do. And I haven't been able to decide, but there are two things that I love to do. And that's really important to me, doing something that I love.
That's awesome. And what do you enjoy doing most with your free time?
I love traveling with my family. I love cooking. I love, just, being with my family. I just spent 5 days in Napa Valley. We ate great food. We drank great wine. We went horseback riding, hiking. I love that. We're going to hopefully to Europe in August if things open up. But I really enjoy travel. Travel is one of my passions. And when I travel, I love exploring new places, seeing new things, and then doing things I've never done before. We went to Zion in the fall, canyoneered, hiked in the Narrows, did things that, I'm not super comfortable doing, but it was amazing and I'll never forget them. Neither will my 10-year-old son. I mean, these are memories for a lifetime. Does he need another toy? No. He loves books. He's not an athlete. He loves reading, but these memories will last forever. And to me, memories with loved ones and experiencing new things, that's what I'm passionate about.
Awesome. And then last question, what advice do you have for other people who either have not started moving towards their dream or not thought about their dream or considering giving up on their dream or thinking, oh, I'm one of those people that there's no dream for me. What would you tell that person?
Well, I don't think it's that easy. I mean, it's finding your passion. A lot of people don't know what their passion is. So that's, delving in deep to what makes you happy. And I think that's the hardest part. And then trying to figure out, is there something I can do in this field where this would be my job, uh, which would be great, or am I really good at something? Can I help a lot of people doing something? I think that's really rewarding. I mean, who doesn't feel good when they help people? So that's another thing where if you don't know your passion, maybe start doing that and that can lead you in a direction. So I think, you know, figuring out what makes you happy is the top of the list, and then kind of just build on that. And like I said, I love mentoring these young female athletes and building their confidence up so they can achieve great things and give back. And then I love these travel experiences, and I love planning trips for other people too. So these are kind of my passions, and I do a little of both, but I haven't done what you've done and like really gone all in on this a 3-day weekend, which I love. I'd love to work shorter during my week. I'm actually cutting down work days as we speak and opening up my weekends and saying, I get 30 requests a week for weekend training. And I say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm being with my family. We're going to do this. And because I kept saying yes, because I didn't want to say no. But oh my gosh, now that I said no, I'm so much happier.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. That is so great. Yeah, it's Gosh, I can only imagine for what you've achieved and what you do and who you are. I mean, you're going to always have somebody asking you. So just what you're going to do to shape that. Thank you so much. Where can people find out a little bit more about you? We'll put the links inside the comments and about your
Um,
club.
yeah, so for right now, maybe just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm also very active on Instagram at Holly McPeak. No VB, because there's one of those too, at Holly McPeak, or LinkedIn. And I'm going to try and get more active on those. So when I actually do, maybe I do both of them, both my passions. That would be good. And then coach in the middle. But it's what makes me happy. So it's not really work. So I would recommend those two.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been, as a volleyball geek, this has been such a pleasure. But also, there's very few people I've met that are ridiculously successful in their sport, enjoy the process, get to be world class, and after the process, they're still enjoying life, still enjoying, like, there's so many things. And so that tells me that what you've said is true. You're a student of life, that you didn't just, one trick pony of like, okay, I'm just going to do this the whole way. I'm going to learn. So congrats on that again. Thank you so much for your time. And what I want to do is just real quick share a couple things here, just some of the feedback. I think you saw some of it. So Danny had mentioned he got to watch you practice on his walks through Hermosa in Manhattan when he used to live in Redondo. So Danny, he's awesome. He's going to be on the podcast sometime soon. But yeah, thank you so much for your inspiration, for what you're doing. I'm looking forward to what you're doing. Whatever you're doing, I'm going to be looking to share with my daughter so that she can be inspired by it, and to share with my son so he can hopefully even understand just different perspectives on things. I talked about the coaching. The guys is like, go, go. And the girls, it's like different approach. And as a coach, learning, okay, what can I say? When can I say it? When am I allowed to say it? And that sort of stuff. And said in a very respectful way, just understanding how do I tap into what that person is and where they're at. So thank you so much for joining us today, Holly. Hope you have an awesome rest of the week, and I look forward to hearing more about what's going on your weekends. And I've been following your Instagram account and seeing a lot of that. So looking forward to seeing more of that there. Thank you so
Great.
much for coming out.
Thanks for having me. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you.